you kind of alluded to it earlier on in the show and said we'll talk about it in more detail. So this is our chance to talk about it. Because you think that by the end of January, or certainly into the middle of February, or let's say February time, Arsenal may well actually extend their lead over Manchester City rather than City clawing it back. Why?
Well, look, both clubs have got tricky fixtures. Man City's now, if you go over their next 7 games, which takes you into the game in mid-Feb, which is Arsenal away.
Okay.
These are the 5, I'll give you 5 of the 7 games. Chelsea away.
Yep.
Man United away. Spurs at home. Spurs away. Arsenal away. 5 of the next 7 fixtures are Man City. Now, I know Man City can go on great runs and win against lots of teams. These teams are all tricky. They're all sides that they're going to have to beat their very best. I think they'll drop points over this period, and a number of them. And I think Arsenal, if anything, will extend the lead they've already got. Now, within that, you could still say, why is City still so close in the betting?
Yeah.
Well, they played Arsenal twice in the Premier League. They've still got Arsenal to play home and away.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one of the factors. But there is no evidence that I can see from what I've witnessed this season that are telling me that City are a better team than Arsenal at the moment. They're not. I think defensively, if you look at the games, they've won less than Arsenal, they've drawn more than Arsenal, and they've lost more than Arsenal at the moment in the Premier League. And we keep going down this road, and I've been guilty of it as well, because we're over promoting Man City for what they've done in years gone by. They are not going to set the tallies of points that they've had in recent years. You know, they had one, I think one had 98 or 97 points, and then they've had 90 a few times. Or they're not going to get that this year. They're not going to achieve that. If you look at all the leagues around Europe, Arsenal, I think, is only PSG have got one more point, or if they win their game in hand, they can win one more point. But most of the major leagues, no one's got the numbers of what Arsenal have got. Certainly not in Spain they haven't. They've got about 38 points. Compared to where Arsenal are at the moment on 43. So this isn't an Arsenal team that's going to collapse. And this is not the Arsenal team of last season.
Okay. And I understand what you're saying about the fixtures. And actually, the couple of fixtures you missed out were Wolves at home and Villa at home. Now, Wolves under Lopetegui, as Stuart Pearce was just saying there, probably deserved a point against Manchester United. So they're only, you think, could well get better and better under Lopetegui. That's a question mark, obviously. Aston Villa, likewise, under Unai Emery. We've seen that they've tested teams as well. So that is a very difficult...
They could have won Liverpool the league last year, Aston Villa, last game of the season.
They could have done. That's irrelevant to this conversation.
No, I know. But look,
joking.
City are an exceptional team.
I'm agreeing with you. And then their fixture list is tough the next few games. But likewise, you could say Arsenal's aren't
tricky
the easiest
as well,
because they have Newcastle at home next. That's on Tuesday. That already could be a potential banana skin. Then they've got Spurs away, Man United at home, the team that they've lost to, the only team that they've lost to in the league this season. They've got a trip to Goodison, Everton. They can make it really tough there, especially if they're picking up form and trying to get themselves out of the battle that they're in. Why are you making a face?
Because you're making an argument for everybody. There, when
of course,
Everton,
I have to.
who would you pick out to win at Goodison Park?
Well, I didn't think Everton would get a point at City, though.
No, I didn't either.
But
I didn't. But funny enough, it's a strange pressure at Goodison because it's very close to the pitch, and the players feel it. They really feel it there, and I don't think it's been as helpful. I mean, Everton fans will tell me different. They'll tell me at the end of the last season it made a massive difference, but they had a particular match winner in their team in Richarlison that made the difference last year. They are really missing that. I think Arsenal's fixtures are tough. I just don't think they're nowhere near as tough as Man City's.
Okay. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
I know.
Here. And I do understand what you're saying, because I do look at both sets of fixtures. And I think, it's cliche, but there's no easy game.
No, there's not. Look, just think. The last 2 home games, Brentford winning there and then drawing against Everton.
Yeah.
You know, we've given them 6 points there, haven't we? When they were behind Arsenal, we've given them 6 points. So I actually think, I wouldn't be surprised if Man United catch City at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised because they're a team in much better form. They look much harder to play against. And look, I've seen City at their very best. I just don't quite know if he feels like he's juggling plates a bit too often or spinning plates with his team, Pep Guardiola.
Well, he's had this before, and we've long we've long discussed this when it comes to sometimes those big finals or those big games where he's overthought it and made it complicated when it didn't need to be complicated. I'm not saying that's happening right now with Manchester City, but we asked it earlier on when we were speaking to Russ Hargreaves about the lineup that he picked, and you questioned the defence and why has he left Laporte and why has he left Walker on the bench, for example.
Cancelo as well.
Cancelo, sorry, not Laporte. And is he overthinking it? Is he being complacent? Is he looking ahead to the Chelsea game rather than actually focusing on the game in hand rather than looking ahead? I mean, he is guilty of doing things like that, Pep Guardiola. Everyone knows that because he's done that before. Yeah,
his starting lineups are incredibly hard to predict. You know, many a player at City have found that they can be playing really well and then suddenly be left out. And you might think, well, that's resting or he's just managing his squad. But sometimes they're head-scratching ones. You know, sometimes I feel like with Phil Foden, there was parts of the times last season, I always think, how has he left Foden out? He's a young man. He can play a lot of football, but he would choose to leave him out. Then Grealish I've seen Mahrez play a hell of a lot of games last season, then suddenly not play many towards the end.
Yeah.
You know, he does them sort of things.
But I suppose is the difference maybe long term, and Adrian Clark, who joined us earlier, kind of alluded to this, that Arsenal's first 11, brilliant, consistent. You kind of know the 11 he's going to pick, Mikel Arteta. But when they start to lose players, and I'm say start to lose, if they start to lose players, is that going to be the problem for Mikel Arteta? And of course, they may well strengthen in this January window, but is that going to be possibly a downfall for Arsenal, that their strength and depth isn't as great as a City side, that if Arsenal were to have injuries and then go on a little blip, City could capitalise with more of the players.
The squad is certainly better at City. I'd be amazed if Arsenal don't profit from this time. As in where they are, this transfer window, who they can bring in. I'll be amazed if they don't do that. And obviously, the transfers are very detailed now, and they're done over a long period of time. But I can't believe Arsenal haven't been working on players for this window.
Well, we were talking about Mudryk before, and they certainly have been linked with him. 7 points is the difference right now. It's still pretty close, but if Arsenal were to lose this title race, how big a blow would that be for them?
Well, of course it would be huge because they're in a great position. But generally, their squad is sound. Their club's in a really good nick. You know, we've mentioned players to come back. Zinchenko can come back. Smith Rowe can come back. Gabriel Jesus can come back into the fold. They're three very good footballers. Yeah. All that would help Arsenal as a team and a squad. It would be a huge blow. They're in prime position. And the only reason we're giving City so much credit is for what they've achieved before. And
that's the history. Yeah.
It's the history and what they've done. They've accumulated lots of points over a 5-6 year period. They've just done brilliantly well. Yeah. But I do think, don't compare this Arsenal team to the Arsenal team of last season that fell away at the end. I think we're wrong. I don't feel like that about this Arsenal team. I feel far more positive of what I'm witnessing and what I've saw this season of them as a side.